President of the European Parliament, Mr. Chairman of the European Parliament of Enterprises, ladies and gentlemen, it is not just flattery when I say that I am grateful for the opportunity to address the European Parliament of Enterprises in the course of this opening session. Why? Your motto that business take over the European Parliament, Mr. President, shows that you want to be an active part of European opinion making. It shows that you are interested in what's going on in Brussels. This is justified because a good deal of the legal framework relevant for business is being developed and adopted on the European level. But even more importantly, your involvement is indispensable for the European Union as such. Without ownership of all stakeholders concerned at all political levels, the European, the national, the regional, but also the business world, well, without that involvement, that ownership, our political initiatives and programs to foster jobs and growth will be deadlocked. You will agree that for the Lisbon programme, we did not create this ownership sufficiently. It is now our common duty to take responsibility for its successor, the successor of the Lisbon agenda. That is the new EU 2020 strategy, to triumph and also for all other initiatives to overcome the current economic and financial crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, this spring the European Union has already shown its political determination to fight the financial and economic crisis. It started in Greece, but it became a serious crisis for the euro area as a whole, and therefore for the European Union as such. You will all remember that in early May, financial markets from Tokyo to New York held their breath. European political leaders faced this challenge with resolve, and in the process we surprised many observers, we surprised many investors. We won the battle of the euro, even if the problems are not yet over completely. In my view, the European Union should now mobilize the same resolve to address the economic challenges we are facing. That is our task. For that, we also need you, the business world. Entrepreneurship is a driving power in Europe. And let me mention two priorities. Preventing another such crisis, first priority, and stimulating structural economic growth, second priority. On the first point, preventing another such crisis, we are currently strengthening the Stability and Growth Pact, our fiscal, our budgetary rule book. Half a year ago, I was asked by the European Council to chair a task force on economic governance. In the task force, we have agreement on the main points. The crisis, and in some way the financial markets, has sharpened minds. We have all experienced that policies of one member state affect all other member states, that national interests coincide with the European interest. And we inside the task force have agreement on the main points. We will finish our work next week, but we have agreement on the main points. First point, stricter compliance of the rules through a new set of financial and political sanctions. Second point, a stronger focus on public debt sustainability. These two things should help to keep public expenditure in check. Third priority, we will also monitor countries' macroeconomic developments more closely. For instance, with the creation of an early warning system, detecting the risk of real estate bubbles or of unsustainable patterns on the balance of payments. Good balance sheets are not enough. Competitiveness problems were neglected in the first decade of this century. Competitiveness needs to be better scrutinized, with an eye on indicators such as the current account of the balance of payments, unit labour costs or private debt. Fourth priority, thanks to the decisions taken in the wake of the crisis, we have a rescue mechanism for 3 years, a safety net of €750 billion. Further work will be necessary to decide what we will do after that. In 2 weeks' time, the European Council will decide on the task force end report. Taken separately, these are all small steps. Together, they will be a big step forward. This will restore confidence further, and I hope these measures will relieve the remaining doubts about the euro amongst you if needed. Now the second priority, improving structural economic growth. The most recent IMF forecasts show an average growth of 1.8% for the EU in 2010. This is good news, double of what was expected only a few months ago, but is still not enough. Let me make a side remark in that context. Since the outbreak of the financial crisis in 2008, circumstances forced politicians to focus on all kinds of negative measures. Crisis prevention, austerity measures, rescue schemes. I would call it the gloomy ambulance type of politics. It is now time for the European Union and national governments to highlight the positive measures we take. Investing in education and research, stimulating innovation, enhancing competitiveness, deepening the single market. In other words, we want to go back to the bright politics instead of the ambulance-type politics, of helping to create the conditions for people to construct their own lives. Much of this will have a budgetary impact, but not everything. For instance, our research program is the largest single program in the world, with a budget of more than €50 billion over a period 2007-2013. And we are thinking ahead. We face new societal challenges such as healthy aging, food and energy security, climate change. We need to create green jobs. That's why I decided to devote the European Council of December to innovation. Here again, it cannot be done without you. It is not the legislator who is innovative, it is the business world. In June, we adopted a new economic strategy for Europe, the EU 2020 strategy I mentioned already, focusing on the creation of economic growth, the strengthening of the competitiveness of the EU, and the preservation of the so-called European economic and social model. And as you know, we brought the 28 targets of the Lisbon Agenda down to 5 headline targets. They are quantitative targets in the areas of employment, research and development and innovation, climate change, education and social inclusion. In order to reach a tailor-made design for each member state, the EU targets will be underpinned by national targets. They shall take into account different starting positions, but will globally be consistent with the EU objectives. Member States are at present identifying the specific national bottlenecks and targets. As said in the beginning, the EU 2020 strategy will only be successful if all stakeholders feel ownership. Thus, I appeal to you to take part in this process in order to maximize the possible profit. European enterprises have to be a busybody, not only here in the European Parliament, but also at home. Ladies and gentlemen, we survived the crisis of the Eurozone and thus of the European Union. Survival is not sufficient. Now we must lay the foundations of future economic growth. It needs a common effort, I repeat, from all stakeholders inside and outside the political world. Thank you.